Hi, good evening. Would like to call to order the January 10th, 2024 regular school committee meeting at 5 p.m. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to convene an executive session, which is a non-public session, to discuss the approval of our December 6, 2023 executive session minutes and collective bargaining pertaining to the TTA, both teachers and ESPs bargaining units, and the school committee will reconvene in open session after the executive session.
So moved.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. B. Joni Smith, a second by Mr. Russo. How do you vote, Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. B. Joni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And we hope to see Mr. Parsons joining us in executive session today. So we'll see you at 6 o'clock. Okay, we reconvene our January 10th, 2024 regular school committee meeting at 6:01 PM. Welcome to everybody that's here with us tonight. At this time, could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And our announcement, just for, tradition. The December 4th, actually the January 10th, 2024 regular school committee meeting will be televised and recorded and may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and Verizon Channel 34 or on youtube.com/Tewksbury TV. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public meeting. At this time, I ask, is anybody recording tonight's meeting? Could you please identify yourselves? Okay, and seeing nobody, we start off tonight with recognition. We have with us tonight the Tewksbury Memorial High School Adaptive Ski Club, and I'll turn that over to Mrs. Terry O'Regan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm very excited tonight that we're recognizing our Tewksbury Memorial High School Adaptive Ski Club. We do have members of our club with us here tonight, Jared Cohen and Maddie DeGricci, and then not with us tonight, but also members of the club are Connor Fullerton and Brennan Hancock. Parents of Jared and Maddie, you're welcome to join them at the podium, along with their esteemed ski club advisors, Mr. Patrick Galligan and Ann McGregor Fay. I just want to say a little bit before we have a very special recognition for you. They have been advising with love this ski club since 2006, 17 years. In fact, we did a very special recognition for them back in 2015 for their dedication to their students. That dedication has never wavered. This club is amazing, and I'm sure while we were all dreading the snowstorm on Sunday, you were all probably beaming with smiles across your face in anticipation of skiing. So these are very hardworking and perseverant students and our club leaders. They have not only learned to ski, but have developed independence and character in this club. We have a recognition that Mrs. Bea Joni Smith is going to read to you, and after she does that, I welcome our members of the club to talk about why you love this ski club so much, okay?
All right, so I have a resolution here. Whereas the Adaptive Ski Club was founded in 2006, and TMHS has had more than 70 students with disabilities participate and learn to ski. And whereas Jared Cohen, Maddie DeGricci, Connor Fullerton, and Brennan Hancock actively participate in the Adaptive Ski Club and demonstrate hard work, sportsmanship, perseverance, and character throughout the ski season. And whereas the Adaptive Ski Club, under the direction of advisors Patrick Galligan and Ann McGregor Fay, ski in New Hampshire at both Mount Sunapee and Waterville Valley ski areas. And whereas the club provides all specialized equipment and instructors at no cost and is fully self-funded through club fundraisers. All coaches, advisors, and assistants are unpaid volunteers. Whereas Jared, Maddie, Connor, and Brennan have brought great pride, recognition, enthusiasm, and honor to themselves, to their families, and to the Tewksbury Memorial High School, and to the town of Tewksbury. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tewksbury School Committee applauds, honors, recognizes the many achievements of the 2024 Adaptive Ski Club members, advisors, coaches, and assistants. Congratulations. Side so we can take a picture, and then I'll give you one to Maddie. There you go. I do have those.
So we know that you love this club very much. Would Ms. DeGricci or Ms. Cohen like to join your children up at the podium, and maybe, because we're going to get a picture with you. So moms, join them in the picture. All right, and you want to look at that camera. Mr. Long, Principal Long, why don't you join them as well? And just watch Mr. Marshall here. He'll tell you when he's all set. So stare at the camera and say cheese. All right, we got the picture. Would either of you like to say anything about the club? You don't have to.
Can you say thank you?
Nope.
She's nervous. You want to say thank you?
Thank you very much.
Say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you so much. Okay, and moving on, we next actually have, Ronnie, do you have a few minutes with us today?
So I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, then, to take our agenda out of order and move up 18A, some new business, just because we have some folks in the audience that like to speak to that, and if we can move that out of order.
I was second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor to move item 18A, the Wynn Drama Club's out-of-state field trip request, please say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous, and
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
This is an out-of-state field trip request. This is the beloved New York City Broadway trip, which is open to all students in grades 7 through 12 who participate in after-school drama. They're planning to see a wonderful show, Wicked, and one of my favorites, and participate in the acting improv experience, followed by dinner at Ellen's Stardust Diner. You have all of the details in front of you for consideration. I welcome Ms. Pellegrino and Mr. DePrima to answer any questions that you might have.
Or break out into song.
I didn't warm up, but if you insist.
please.
Oh, no.
Anything you want to say about the trip? We'd love to hear it.
Oh, it'll happen naturally. We can't just force it. It will happen. It's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
What can I answer for you?
I mean, I'm excited about the trip. I can speak to that. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for students. I'm so excited that you're looking to combine again with the Wynn in the high school. And I'm really excited about Ellen's, and I'm really excited that you're able to do some sort of this year it looks like improv, so that looks awesome. So those are my comments. The money seems reasonable. It's Broadway, and so I have no questions.
Is there a cap on the number of students that can attend?
Yes, so we are capped by the bus that we're taking. So if you look on your sheet, it says price reflects 42 student participants. So that is, there won't be a wait list for this one because we can only fill that bus. As much as I'd love to be able to get a second bus, I had to commit acts of crime and thievery to get just the one. No, it was near impossible to get the one, so getting two is going to be impossible.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have in the programs between both schools?
So I just did Frozen at my school, and we're getting ready to start our spring show. We have not started auditions yet. I had about 60 kids in my program there.
And we go between 50 and 60, depending on what season we're in.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Mr.
Great.
Russo?
No question. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I know you guys have done this in the past, and so I appreciate you bringing it back and taking the steps to make that available to students, so thank you.
Is there no other comments?
No.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Broadway field trip 2024 to Wicked in New York City for March 9th,
I'll second that.
as presented. Yep.
Okay. And actually, we received paper from you that had a small change from what was in the packet, so we're voting on,
We're voting on what was handed out to us this evening,
right, and
sorry.
what's the total that was? I just had lost it.
317 per student, or 13,337 for the full cost at 42 students.
So since there's money, it's not really our spending money, but I'll still take it as roll call. How do you vote, Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Peter Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So that's it. Unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Night,
Appreciate
yeah.
it.
Thank you.
And next is our Student Council Representative, Rania, with your report. Thank you for your patience.
Of course. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I have just, I can't say a couple because I kind of have a lot again, but I have some updates about what's happened this past month and last month. To begin, just some sports updates include that surprisingly, sports are nearing the end of the winter season with just 1 month left. The hockey team has a game tonight at Boston Murphy Memorial Rink. The track team is currently in Boston as well at Boston University for their second meet here this season. The varsity girls basketball team had a game yesterday against Chelmsford. Unfortunately, they lost by 2 points, and also going against Chelmsford, the boys basketball team played yesterday. Wrestling also has a match today at Lowell High School against Lowell. Next, some club updates include the TMHS Theater Company. They're busy at work, and they've been having their daily rehearsals in preparation for their show Law & Order, Fairy Tale Unit, and Check Please, Take Two. Last Thursday, DECA held an alumni and practice night here in which people participated in mock written presentations along with role plays which prepared them for our district competition, which was yesterday at UMass Lowell. And it was also today, but the majority of students went yesterday. Student Council has been planning Principals Day, which will be held this Friday. And I'm not gonna expose it, you know. I was going to, but not anymore. This week, the Student Council is also hosting a dine-out night at Wicked Cheesy's. And GSA is working with people from the Tewksbury Town office in order to build a climate committee, which they feel would create a more accepting and welcoming environment at TMHS. GSA is also going to be selling Valentine's Day cards and plastic hearts on the week leading up to Valentine's Day in order to fundraise the creation of said committee. On December 14th, the Rocket League team won another state championship, and the next season begins in February, so next month. French Club had a meeting before break in which they created gingerbread houses and are planning a winter carnival, which will be held most likely in the beginning of February. The International Club created fleece tie blankets over break, which were handed in this Tuesday and will be giving out to people who need the blankets, like homeless people, people in areas where they don't have it, and all of that. Math team recently had a meet at Billerica High School, and our next meet is tomorrow at Westford Academy. And finally, Interact Club is planning a blood drive at the beginning of March, and this will also entail a month of just women's hygiene drive. So people will be able to give things into 2 boxes that will be stationed in Ms. Caruso's room, along with most likely the front office or just the front area of school. And just some other information I have is the winter dance will be held on January 19th from 7 to 10 p.m. And the sophomore class of 2026 will no longer be hosting their talent show due to a lack of signups. So that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
That was a great update, thank you.
No. Thank you for the update. Can I just, who did you say was doing the climate committee?
GSA.
GSA.
Oh, GSA.
Who were they working with at the time?
Mr. Burgoyne.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, moving on now to our citizens forum. I'm not seeing anybody here to speak this evening, so that'll bring us to our approval of minutes with Mrs. Anderson.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 6, 2023 regular meeting.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Anderson, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that carries 4-0.
I make a motion to approve the payroll period ending December 7, 2023 in the amount of $1,574,978.52.
I'll second.
Did we have 2 sets of minutes?
No,
Nope. So we don't have October 3rd and December 6th?
no.
Not on the agenda.
No, I don't have them on my agenda for October 3rd.
No.
Oh, just going back to my,
That was done
yeah, okay.
December 6th,
Perfect.
October 3rd, November 15th.
All right, thank you. All right, so a motion by Mrs. Anderson, second by Mr. Russo, to approve and certify the payroll period ending December 7, 2023, in the total amount of $1,574,978.52. Roll call vote. How do you vote, Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well for a 4-0 vote.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the payroll period ending December 21st, 2023 in the amount of $1,623,699.68.
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion by Mrs. Anderson, a second by Mr. Russo, to approve and certify the payroll period ending December 21st, 2023, in the amount of $1,623,699.68. Mr. Russo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well for a unanimous vote.
I make a motion to approve the payroll period ending January 4th, 2024 in the amount of $1,548,357.06.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Anderson, a second by Mr. Russo, to approve and certify the payroll period ending on January 4th, 2024, in the total amount of $1,548,357.06. Mr. Russo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well for another unanimous vote. And moving on now to our superintendent and staff report. We'll start with Mrs. Terry O'Regan, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy New Year to you and members of the committee. Coming back after December recess, I usually say, is a lot like starting the school year all over again, but with a lot of work, under our belt. But it is a time to regroup and begin again. So as we attend our first official 2024 full school committee meeting, much progress and work is underway. In a little bit, I'll share the superintendents and districts' mid-year progress on our goals for the first half of the year. But with that, we made it through our first snowstorm of the year with a delayed start this past Monday. I hope you can join me, and I know you've probably said it, in your own mind and heart, in extending our deepest gratitude to our Tewksbury Public Schools maintenance and custodian team. They were on the scene all day Sunday into Sunday night, and then very early again Monday, making sure our schools were ready to accept students. They just tackled the falling snow on the sidewalks, in the parking lot, and throughout our school campuses. But I also want to thank our Tewksbury Police Department, our Fire Department, and our DPW, because equally, they were hard at work making sure we were informed of what the situation was out on the roads, how the roads were being cleaned up. And I also, I'm sure they're not watching, but have to praise the work of National Grid. National Grid brought our schools all back online after that big snowstorm for our delayed start Monday morning, and then also this morning. It was a real nail biter. Late last night, we were still down, our power was down in 4 of our schools, including central office, but they got us all online for a full day start today. So we're very appreciative of everyone's work. It's always, an anxiety-driven event when we have weather, but it's New England and we will have weather events. With that, it's also important to remind our TPS community to please read the inclement weather notice that we have shared online and in our newsletter. It's when those events happen, then all those details come into play. As a reminder, a delayed start is a 2-hour delay. So everything is 2 hours later, including bus pickup, and then the start of the day, and then it's a normal dismissal time at our schools. We always ask our parents just to have their kiddos out a little early to the bus stop, because those days don't always run like clockwork. So during this inclement weather week, we were also experiencing telephone issues at the Ryan and the Wynn. The telephone issues are resolved at the Ryan, and the main telephone system at the Wynn is operating as well. But our IT team tells us that the POTS, the plain old telephone service, is what I learned POT stands for. Those line issues are still being worked on by Verizon at the Wynn. So thank you to our parents who were really patient, because it was a stressful morning and people were trying to call 2 of our schools and they weren't getting through. So just as a reminder, in cases of those type of communication emergencies, email us. People are checking email regularly on those mornings as well. So we're now heading towards completing the official halfway mark of the school year. Today is day 81 for students. I mean, where does the time go? December 15th, students in grades K through 4 received their first standards-based report card for the first trimester of the school year. This first publication was a resounding success, and really our thank you goes to our standards-based report card team, led by the Assistant Superintendent, Lori McDermott, and Directors Jason Stamp and Felicia Chanovich. We really thank them for all their work on this long-awaited district initiative. For grades 5 through 12, January 26th is the last day for semester 1 and for term 2. It's right around the corner. Those grade levels will receive their second report card on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Semester 2 and term 3 for grades 5 through 12 starts on Monday, January 31st. We're excited to announce to you tonight we have appointed Mary Jo Kelleher as the STEM Pathways Program Coordinator. Mary Jo will be responsible for developing and implementing and overseeing various STEM pathway programs at the high school and eventually within the district. This is crucial in fostering a dynamic educational environment that engages students' interests in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Ms. Kelleher is a dedicated teacher and dedicated to supporting students and is committed to providing opportunities that facilitate the pursuit of STEM-related careers and post-secondary education. We're confident her passion will greatly contribute to the advancement of our current Innovation Pathways engineering program. And in answer to your question from our last meeting, Ms. Anderson, there are 2 more dual enrollment courses in the pipeline, one already approved to add to that list we shared with 8th grade students. Ms. Kelleher, as I said, will be overseeing the advancement of some of those courses. Tomorrow is the Valley Collaborative's annual Board of Directors and Stakeholder Meeting. You have the Valley's annual report and recent newsletter in your packet. It includes their mission, services, programs, and the cost effectiveness and financial audit of our collaborative. The Assistant Superintendent, Business Manager, myself, and you, Madam Chair, are planning to attend that annual review meeting tomorrow. This coming Monday, January 15th, is a day off from school for students and staff as we honor the legacy of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. This federal holiday honors the life and legacy of Dr. King, a civil rights leader who dedicated his life to speaking out against injustice, inequality, poverty, and war. I want to thank Mr. Josh Nichols for his offer to donate resources to our Tewksbury Memorial High School robotics team, valued at approximately $700. Donations to our team are greatly appreciated, especially at this time of the year as they begin to enter into the first robotics competition, which will happen in a couple months. Your approval of the consent agenda will allow the team, to utilize those donations. My final update tonight speaks to an amazing opportunity I'm proud to tell you about. I have been chosen to be part of a superintendent leadership opportunity called Leading Now. Leading Now is a national superintendent networking cohort. It started in 2021 to offer a combination of peer-driven learning cohorts to a broad range of superintendents across the country. Leading Now is currently supporting approximately 175 superintendents. They provide district school system leaders with strategic communications, resources, and strategies within a trusting community of peers so that they may navigate their environments intentionally and advance their student-centered priorities. There's no cost to the district, and the member benefits include, and I'll be really brief here, but there's a smaller Massachusetts cohort that will, of superintendents that will be working with other states' district superintendents. There's a 2-day in-person convening at the end of January. Cohort sessions are grounded in a leader's problem of practice model and include expert briefings and resources that superintendents can apply. There are direct supports and tailored referrals with strategic advisors for just-in-time assistance to navigate particularly intense, complex situations that districts may encounter with upcoming elections and negotiations and things like that. That would be unique to our district. There are partner organizations, not unique to our district. There are partner organizations that can assist with strategic communications. And then after the in-person convening, there's a virtual community and monthly briefing sessions and superintendent roundtables for peer and expert connectivity. So I'm just so excited and proud to tell you that I look forward to broadening my leadership skills through this network so that I can better serve our students, families, staff, and the whole school community. So that concludes my updates for now until we get to the district goal review.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments, Mr. Russo?
No, not this time. Thank you very much for that update.
Mrs. Anderson?
Just congratulations on being nominated to the Leading Now. Excited for you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. B. Johnny Smith?
No questions right now.
And I have the same to say as Mrs. Anderson. I think that's a nice honor, and I think you represent Tewksbury well.
Oh, thank
doing
you.
that, so thank you. Speaking a little bit to the snow day process, it's always controversial. I think, it worked out really well to have a delay. I think back to the years when we had 90-minute delays. Those are very confusing. So I appreciate the 2-hour delay. Math is a little bit easier.
It is.
So no, I think it works out well. And I know that we have a lot of challenges with some of the leaks and things at the older schools. So to add this to that is the power outages and things. So again, I'll thank National Grid as you did, but I have no other.
Yeah, they did a great job. Everybody did.
Thank you. And Mrs. McDermott.
Thank you. I just have a few brief updates. As the superintendent mentioned, standards-based report cards became available for all students in grades 1 through 4 on December 15th. Directions went home from the principals on how to access those report cards. In Aspen, they went in as an attachment, and directions were sent to families. We did not hear of any issues at all that I know of from parents, so I'm hoping no news is good news, but I just want to remind families families, if you haven't taken a look in Aspen, they are there. Our kindergarten families can expect their first report card on February 14th. Remember, they have just 2 this semester, so those will be coming out soon, and we'll provide another reminder because I think we meet on the 14th. So, speaking of kindergarten, another reminder to everyone about kindergarten registration. It opens next week. I feel like we were just talking about this and it seemed really like far away, and here it is, January 17th. We have a very helpful informational video posted on the website where you find all the documents needed, instructions for making an appointment, and we will, of course, include this in the district newsletter. Another reminder that the Tewksbury Public Schools MCAS calendar is posted on the website, and we will also keep this in our district newsletter as a reminder this time around. And the Access for ELS language proficiency testing window is open, and assessments are underway this week. If families are unsure by some chance, they should have heard from their schools, but if they've missed that and they're unsure of their testing date, they can absolutely reach out to their ELL teacher. And then just a reminder regarding the Respect, Give It, Get It poster project that I gave in my November update. This is open to all elementary, middle, and high school students, as well as any student organizations, clubs, and athletic teams. The deadline for the poster submission is also quickly approaching January 26th, so that's just another reminder. And that concludes my update.
Thank you. Sure. Any questions, comments?
Just one on the standards base. I know you said you didn't receive any feedback. Are you aware of any feedback that maybe individual teachers might have gotten from their parents? Or
No, the committee has met, we've talked to the principals, and I
Great.
think so far, so good.
Excellent. Thank you. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Ms. Anderson, no?
No, I'm
Ms.
good,
Bujoy Smith?
No, no questions?
That's fantastic, honestly, for the.
And you
pace-
haven't heard
No.
anything either? Okay.
The pace that you were able to work with teachers and, put this together and get it out there and to have it be pretty successful is pretty awesome. So,
Yeah, super
thank you.
exciting. We're still working on the benchmarks, getting those out for the next couple of terms, but we were able to get the Term 1 benchmarks out pretty quickly. I feel like that will be a relatively fluid document as we get to know the new ELA program. There'll be updates to that benchmark document, but that document's really helpful for parents to look and say, even though these are end-of-year standards, this is what my student has been taught up to this point, and so this is where I can expect that, they're mastering this so far. So,
Okay. What was the feedback like from the teachers in terms of the actual execution? Was this on par with previous,
yeah, I think
or-
I think next term will be a better gauge, because this first term, we had a PD day that we really were able to support them in getting this first report card launched. So I think, in all honesty, they'll feel the change next term. So I think that would be more accurate feedback. But again, so far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Russo?
I just want, because you mentioned Aspen, and I know some of our younger families may not necessarily be as aware or familiar with Aspen as maybe some of our older families are.
Yeah.
Is it an Aspen constraint that only allows for the report card to be posted for 2 weeks, and then the report card goes away, or any progress report, any attachment?
Yeah, I don't know why that. We talked a little bit about that too, because we're under the assumption that the attachment would stay in.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Right, and they may need to review Term 1 when they get Term 2.
Right.
So
and
we can look into that.
Just something to consider or think about. I know that certainly for 5 through 12, it's always been that report card part is gone after 2 weeks, and if
Right.
you want it, you got to call the school to have them email it to you, but it does disappear after 2
The
weeks.
grades stay, it's just the comments, I think, are not there.
No, the actual PDF report card is
Right.
gone.
But you can go to
Your academics
you can go to,
section.
your.
You can see your grades, correct. You can
Go for
see
the
them,
first term and see the
and
grades.
see the test scores, see quiz scores, homework score, whatever it might be, but the physical report card is gone.
Let us look into that.
Yeah,
There must be a good answer.
Yeah.
I know why the comments go away, because, the 4 terms are all lined up and then
Yeah.
the final, so they change.
Yeah.
But,
I'm just talking about the actual PDF itself.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And a PDF, you would think, would not cause that much
Right.
storage space either.
Yeah.
So let us
Yeah,
find out.
that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. McDermott and Mr. Libby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just have a few updates on our sort of big capital projects that have been coming down the pipe here. So first, the Ryan and Wynn HVAC project that we have some grant funding for. We wrote into our ESSER grant $1 million to rework the HVAC in those schools' classroom areas, for both of those schools. The estimate we had at the time, when we wrote that grant three or 4 years ago, was ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, was 1.2 to get both schools done. Opened the bids early December. The Ryan came in at 2.6 million, and the Wynn came in at 3.8 million. So our 1.2 $1 million in the grant isn't going to cut it for us right now. So we've discussed some options with our consultant, with our maintenance folks, with the town manager on how to proceed from here. We are committed to spending that grant funding by September of '24. So we are looking at moving forward with the Wynn project right now. The Wynn is the sort of the needier of the two schools, I guess, has the worst of the two HVAC systems currently. So the plan right now is to, we do have some unencumbered funds left in ESSER, about 300,000. So we do a amendment to the grant to move some of that money towards funding the project as well. So if we did 1.3 from the grant, would leave a balance of about 2.5 that we would need to come up with. And talking with the town manager, the next step would be to look at a warrant article at the May town meeting for the 2.5 to fund the second, the rest of that project to be completed this summer. Also in that, sort of in that equation is a rebate from Mass Save of 700,000 that would sort of go back into the general fund. So the 2.5 that we would be asking for would sort of in essence get reduced to 1.8, because that would go back into the town's general fund to sort of replace some of that money that we would be getting. And then the plan for the Ryan School would be to rebid, hoping to get a lower price. Look at another article, warrant article for the October town meeting, and complete that project in summer of '25. So, we're still hoping to complete both projects for both schools. The need was not only, the comfort level of the schools, saving on utilities, the MERV level is the thickness of the filter that we can provide in those spaces, and we want to focus on the spaces where the students and staff spend most of their time. So that's why we chose the classroom spaces. So we want to continue with the project. They're not dead yet based on the bids we got. They're just kind of pushed out further than we had hoped at this point. The Heathbrook project, where we were looking at the 5 greenhouse rooms that were kind of a victim to the flooding last August, and it sort of has developed into kind of a whole redo of those rooms, HVAC, as the HVAC in the rooms has been failing pretty regularly for quite some time. And the windows in the rooms are very energy inefficient and just failing on a lot of levels. So it's an HVAC, a window and door project, a new ceiling, and some portable walls that are in between some of those spaces, and replacing all of that. We've chosen our architect and engineer. They're working on design. They were there yesterday taking some measurements. They're hoping to have specs out on the street in February, so we can choose a general contractor and get that project underway. It's an area of the school that can be really isolated. Work can commence as soon as we have a general contractor chosen. The holdup with will be with supplies and materials, getting those on site in time. And the big one that the architect and engineer are mentioning right now is windows, actually, more so than HVAC products, which windows were a problem at the center school too. We had to fudge some plexiglass for temporary solutions. So, but we're pushing them to get that moving as fast as we can, as we've told them, we have those spaces ready for September. So they're aware of our need there. The budget work continues with our principals and department heads on our FY25 budget. We have a lot of unknowns, as everybody knows, but the budget train continues, and we have to produce some numbers that will, have to figure out a way to meet one way or another. So that work continues with our principals and department heads. It's a lot of contingencies, a lot of what-ifs, and a lot of this plan, back up to the backup plan, but we're meeting with those folks over the next couple weeks and putting a lot of thought into what's best for students and what can meet the needs of the most students in the best way.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Yes, I have a comment. It's more just something to talk about, the Heathbrook in general and the impact to kids and students and teachers and classroom moving and all the work that we're putting in to the school and starting something and then finding something else. It just seems like a lot. I'm thinking about all the work that we're putting in and just trying to just figure out what the best course of action is there for everybody. I know that when the first league happened, I think teachers were thinking they were going to be back in quickly, and obviously they relocated their classrooms and their kiddos and everything like that. So it's just, I don't know, we keep hearing about the Heathbrook, and it's just something to think about as we continue to go down these renovation pathways with the Heathbrook, and costs of materials and labor and whatever else it is, just to be on our mind.
Yeah. The, my glass half full look at this is, I think this might be a good little test for us to see if there's a way to keep the Heathbrook long-term. This is abandoning ship on our whole HVAC system, which has always been a concern for our older buildings. It's a whole new mini-split system that's being designed and implemented. There will be rebates associated with this as well.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's something we look at for a long-term solution to our space needs in the district.
Thank you.
It's a kind of a a little mini test to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you, though. I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, good point. Mr. Russo?
Yeah, just in general, with all the things with the Heathbrook, how much of that is covered by our insurance at the moment? And how much is coming from our capital outlay project and budget?
So the flooring, anything that was touched by
Water.
the water that
Yeah.
came in during the flooding, so cabinetry work,
Yeah.
any walls that were not concrete is all covered under the insurance claim. And anything beyond that, things that we've done to mitigate the flooding.
Yeah.
Like we've put in some French drain
Yep.
outside so the water doesn't overflow through that wall again. We've done some drain work on the other side of the building. The mitigation work, so it doesn't happen again.
Right.
That's on us.
That's on us, yeah.
And this type of work is also on
Okay.
on the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything from Mrs. Anderson?
No, thank you.
Just curious, at the Heathbrook, with the HVAC being addressed, is that, I know that the library is completely on the other side of the school, but is there any accommodations for the HVAC to also be helping to support, like, the library space at all?
Not at this time, no. It's just, we're
Just those classrooms?
completely focused on that area, that wing of the school.
Okay.
I think it's important to note, too, with the old greenhouse windows being addressed through that piece of the project, too, as Mr. Libby says, this will be a great test to see if that's a good fix for the space in the library. We know that we've had to put AC in there, the window AC, because it gets just so hot. It's a hot house. So, hopefully this is a efficient and effective way to update some of those spaces more longer term.
Yeah, thinking of those windows, that was kind of where my mind was, yeah. Okay, yeah, no further questions, but thank you for the update. That's very thorough. It's really unfortunate, I think, that the teachers in the classrooms have been displaced like this, but I understand that it's unavoidable.
They'll have the nicest, most coveted classrooms when it's done.
I know,
The center school teachers are going to want to go back.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, it's a bummer. Okay, and then, so we're moving on to the consent agenda. Mrs. Terry Regan, Ms. McDermott, anything else that you wanted to mention in the consent agenda?
No, thank you. It's light this month, so.
Yeah. Any questions, comments on anything in the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in our packet.
Second that.
Okay, so motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And, yeah, so I wish them well with it's the Flash Forge
Yeah.
Creator Pro 2-dimensional printer.
Donation, that's the donation.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope they get some good use out of that. And now, Mrs. Anderson, if you want to tackle some of what we have this month for
Do we want to do
Policy?
school committee member reports first?
Oh, yeah, I guess we could do that first.
Sorry.
I'm going by the packet. All right, so school committee member reports. Mr. Parsons is not with us this evening, so Mrs. Biagioni Smith with the CPAC.
So we were supposed to have a family support meeting. They were going to have it this week, but with the storm, they're postponing that. There's not a new date at the moment. The next meeting is January 18th, which is a regular business meeting, and a meet and greet with admin is that day as well. So that's it for now.
What was the date on that? I'm sorry.
January 18th.
And what exactly will that be?
So the goal is to allow families some time to meet with the administration in more of an impersonal, informal way, personal and informal way. Get to know each other a little bit more, kind of just an open socializing opportunity. Yeah, I think that's the
Nice
gist
time
of
to
it.
connect.
There's nothing really structured, more just,
That's great.
yeah,
So like a non-meeting format.
open up the communication, yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Any
Maybe there'll be
questions?
snacks. I don't know. Have to find some snacks.
I'm sure there will be.
All right, thank you. And then Wellness Advisory, Mr. Russo and Mrs. Biagioni Smith.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't met since our last meeting, so our next meeting is scheduled for February 7th, so I think we'll have more to say at our February meeting.
Okay. Anything else to add?
We had the workshop just to, this month, just to discuss the policy that was put out there. A few of us attended. We were able to talk to someone from DESI to share their thoughts on what was presented to the policy subcommittee. And yeah, that was that as well.
Yeah. No, and I want to say thank you to both Deb Mugford and Kelly Constantino for putting that together. I think it was tremendously helpful, I think, for us from the policy perspective, to just get a better idea of, what they're looking for in a policy that will support them in the work that they're doing in the district. So that'll be on our agenda for policy at some point moving forward. And thank you guys in the Wellness Subcommittee for the work to get it there, too. So, great, thank you. And Policy Subcommittee, Mrs. Anderson?
Sure. We can go through just the few policy updates that we have. So we do not have any policy updates as informational reading or first reading. We do have a few that are second and final. So KBDA, notices to parents, guardians, KBE, relations with parent advisory councils and booster organizations, KCD, public gifts to the school, KDB, public rights to know, KDD, news, media relations and news releases, and KE, public complaints. So
Okay. Any questions, comments on those 6 that are being presented as a second final reading? If there's no discussion, this would be our final reading of these, and we're looking to approve them tonight.
You're looking to approve them today, correct? Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any questions. Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the 6 policies as Ms. Anderson has presented them this evening.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yep, I'll make a second.
Okay, so a motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni-Smith. All in favor for KBDA, KBE, KCD, KDB, KDD, and KE. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes unanimously. And that'll mean when we come back next month, if we don't have another policy subcommittee meeting, we won't have any policies to look at unless we do some work. And then for some old business, we have back to Mrs. Terry Regan, who's across the room here.
Way over here tonight, because I thought, you have these goal documents, but I really thought it'd be wise to walk through some key examples in the 5 district goals. So first of all, let me just say, as the superintendent of Tewksbury Public Schools, I know you know, and you've heard me say this before, just how privileged and proud I am to lead such a talented group of administrators and staff. While I lead and direct the district as the CEO, if you will, of our school system, it's really our amazing and dedicated administrators and staff that focus on these goals and do the real hard work and the hard lift so that we can achieve the goals. As you saw at the school committee retreat this past August, every school and our central office departments are working towards the same 5 district goals for improved professional practice, for improved student learning, and overall district improvement. You, yourself, the committee, you support us in our goal setting and in the budget, so that really does help us achieve the goals and the success that you're going to hear a little bit about tonight. So this is a laser focus. I'm going to just share with you some small examples. When I say small, it's a lot, but I'd be here for days sharing with you all the work our district has been doing around these goals. So let me just remind you, and I've highlighted, just to draw your eye really quickly, what our goals are about. So our first district goal is around data-driven decision-making, where we support all school-level administrators by modeling improved professional practice of data-driven analysis and then subsequent decision-making. So in that realm, and I'm not going to click every link here, but let me just start with that whole idea of goal setting. Our administrators look at every single, and I've redacted the names and hire dates, so this doesn't show who people are, but they look at every single professional practice, that's what that means, goal that teachers are setting, and every student learning goal. And from that analysis at every school level and collecting that data, what they then do, and I'll get out of this, what we did was look at, okay, where is the preponderance of professional practice and student learning goals fitting in with our teachers around our district goals. Why do we do that? Because then we can laser focus. Our RPD is meant to support district goals. But when you see here, and I know the print is really small, most of our educators, or the highest frequency of our educator student learning goals are in that instructional support goal. And then most of our educators' professional practice goal is in providing instructional supports to students. So when we look at that, we're able to make some decisions around professional development. And then, and that's how we were using data just around goal setting. So, because that's something we don't typically collect that data and then really focus how we work with our teachers so that they achieve their goals towards our goals. We look at MCAS analysis. We have help from our IT team, where we put all those standards, because these are beginning year data to look at from where we jump off from last year. You can see that we are looking at data from 2019, 21, which is a down year, if you will, 22, and then 23. That's that aqua bar. And what we do when we look at each of these standards, and again, I know the print is small, but for example, if we're looking at grade 3 geometry standard here, we can see, where we fell in 2023 as compared to pre-pandemic, pre-COVID. And then what we do is put together by year some of those areas of needed focus. So this is how we're using beginning year data with our leadership team so that they can then make some decisions on what to focus in on. And as you saw from the superintendent, assistant superintendent's overview of MCAS at one of our previous presentations, that's how we use the data in the look at that we're, the VARs, visual analytical resources that we're creating. Let me talk a little bit, too, about just using that data. It's not only about academics, it's obviously about social emotional learning and, the development of our students. And as you know, we use DESA, Aperture, to do benchmarking around social emotional strengths. So the blue section here are strengths, and the red section are areas of need. This is end-of-year DESA data from last year. Why is that important? Because our grade levels can kick the year right off. If we saw the second grade DESA data show strengths in the areas of self-management, but needs in the area of goal-directed behavior, lessons can be planned for the classroom to start the school year for that grade level. How we look at social emotional data individually at schools will look a little different. I'll show you a little example of that. And these are all real snapshots of the real data our principals are using. We did give the October 23 pre-assessment on DESA, and what we can see here, you may not be able to see these numbers, but we have 130-ish students with real strengths in the competencies, 337 students here, 68% in the typical range, but what the schools can then hone in on are these 29 students that are showing needs in the particular competencies. And that's when the schools and the principal work together with the teachers to create lessons and planning to assist those students. What we also look at, obviously academically, is the DIBELS, our reading benchmark data. So let me just show you here the reading intervention, DIBELS. We're going to see that again in a second. But from the DIBELS data that we looked at, our coaches go into the PLCs, share the data, and then they make some decisions about what next. Sorry, this is jumping around. Here's a document our teachers worked on around process for student selection for intervention based on the data. So again, this is really not just collecting data, analyzing data, it's what next. And this is what's really exciting, is to see our schools and teachers doing that work with data analysis. We have that MCAS VAR, as I told you, where we compare that academic data, across all grade levels to make recommendations. And, you know what I should have showed you too? What makes it really wonderful, and this is the work that Again, VAR stands for Visual Analytical Resource. You can quickly augment by subject and then grade, so that our directors who are meeting with principals regularly to look at this data can hone in right on their own grade level. So this was important for, again, the beginning of the year decision-making. From that, as I said, they're having Otis meetings. I can't show you a lot on the Otis data because it's really student, related to student progress. And then, whoops, I already did that one. Those individual principal supervisory meetings lead to direct decision-making at not only grade level, but for individuals to receive the interventions they need. Well, you know we were looking at that data in terms of our standard space report card. All of that, the data and decision-making, the decision-making from the data has been posted to the district website for parents to review and for us to work from. You know that we're providing professional development for the leadership team to impact their data-related analysis and decision-making skills through Cale Burke. There's a schedule here of the times that we've met with him. There's a professional development schedule that you had opportunity to look at and see, why did we pick these days in the specific PD? Because it relates back to the district goals and the needs that have arisen from that data analysis. You will see in a minute the NESDEC report and the data we use around enrollment to make some very important decisions around staffing and budgetary decisions. We, every year, review actuals at mid-year to the NESDEC report that we receive in January. Let me move on to goal number 2. And it's up to you, Madam Chair, if you want to question now or wait till we get through all 5. I'm going to do a little bit of the same thing through the 5 goals.
I mean, yeah, it's completely up to you. Does anybody have any questions that are pressing that you want to just kind of carry through the whole thing?
I'm fine, Karen.
No question. Yeah, we'll go through it.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
All right, so you know that Goal 2 is strengthening instructional support for improved student learning. This is support around social and academic needs for all students to access grade level standards in K-8 and higher level coursework in 9 through 12. So again, I'll highlight some of those actions that we've planned throughout the year. High quality PD related to the new K through 6 curriculum implementation. There's a full EL PD plan that has been implemented, and from that PD plan and the work with our teachers using the curriculum pacing guides, our teachers have made some really significant decisions around areas of need through that curriculum implementation. For example, grade 3 decided they also need to insert persuasive writing into the MCAS bootcamp days, since persuasive writing doesn't occur in lessons until May. So they look at their PD, they look at their pacing, and then they are making some very informed academic decisions, curriculum planning decisions. Also in the January PD, and you'll hear more about this from the assistant superintendent when she gets to that, is our full day focus on instructional supports. How can we help teachers support students? You'll see that some of it's around the EL planning and supports, or around connecting with students and providing social emotional supports and time for the teachers to work together on that. There's EL support lessons that were being taught. There's a whole choice board. I'm not going to get into that because Ms. McDermott will. We also, in that improving instructional supports, wanted to provide opportunities for teachers to assume leadership roles. And that January 2nd PD really is in that realm as well. But remember our standard space report card committee. That's one huge example of teachers taking leadership roles to make very relevant decisions towards our students' achievement. They have created rubrics. Remember, there was a whole host of teachers and principals and district administrators on that team. They've created rubrics in Otis to provide the data needed for those report cards. They've created those term benchmark documents, again, that are on the website that our parents can view. So it's very transparent as well, the decisions that they're making, as much as they can be. Our ESL department, teachers have created self-paced, additional self-paced PD and language support for our teachers in the class. That's an area of accountability and a high area of support need. We have appointed new teacher leaders at the high school, which is nice when the leadership can be distributed among many, and new people step up for that. You know, your wellness committee has a teacher leader coordinator on there, and as you heard, Mary Jo Kelleher has taken on the new leadership role as the STEM pathway coordinator, sorry about the typo in there, and is advancing our early college opportunities or certification opportunities for students at the high school, which was part of this goal. Vertically aligning curriculum across all grades. You know, obviously, that's a work in progress with the EL curriculum. What we also challenged our STEM team with is aligning vertically our entire STEM curriculum, K through 12. Where are their holes? Are these? They've done a lot of work on not only aligning where all the standards are in the, because we have STEM programming K through 12, but we know we need to strengthen it. So this is the work they needed to do to find out where does it need to be strengthened. And there's, you know, their inventory, many, many meetings. There's lots of evidence showing the work that they're doing. We need to provide time to review time on learning. And that's critical, and make recommendations where adjustments are needed. The ELA team, because they're, you know, delving into that new implementation, have really made some good decisions on proposed time on learning recommendations for next year. And you'll see that, you know, they parse out every minute of the student learning day, including some intervention time. And, you know, it's broken down into the core content as well as specials and SEL time. So looking at the data really helps them make those decisions with the information they need. We have taken our curriculum cultural relevance review documents, and while teachers have been trained in these, we're also putting that into our annual mandated training and review so that we don't lose sight. We have to always be looking at our curriculum with the lens of, is this culturally relevant for all of our students? We study and analyze with the district leadership team our student support team process. And I have to tell you how big this one action is. It sits in one little grid piece, but when you see the work, the monumental work this group has done already, I just can't tell you how proud I am of them. And this is another teacher leadership group because it's led by Karen Baker O'Brien with the special ed department, and many of our counselors are part of this team. So they've created an intervention playbook, and that sounds like, you know, is that a big deal? But what this playbook really does, and it's quite comprehensive, is it talks about the needs of our students, social, emotional, academic well-being. It intersects that vision of a learner with our assessment piece, our benchmarking, with our PLC work, and then how do we support students when interventions are needed. This is a full-blown, homegrown process with the help of our consultant, Alex Hirschberg. So they're having SST meetings with Alex Hirschberg. He's the consultant on hand, but also walking them through how it's going. I just want to share with you a little. They have started a mental health referral how-to. They've created an app. Let me see if I can get this app to show you really quickly what it does and see if it lets me in while we're here. And we have transitions, right, through each of the K1 and then 2, 4. And so what we struggle with is how do we continue to provide appropriate instructional supports, but then the student moves. How do we know it worked when they moved? So we knew, and Karen knew, that we needed a consistent process all throughout the grade level so we could look back on those processes and interventions. It's not going to load. I promise you it's amazing, and I can show it to you in my office if you want. What they then do from that app is they have data that the teachers have provided or someone has provided on the student. So this is going to say X student because it's all taken out, any confidential information. But they identify the strengths first. They identify their academic concerns, their, you know, executive functioning challenges, social emotional, and then they ask the teacher, the classroom teacher, whoever's, you know, coming to the table with this concern about a student, what have you tried? What from that playbook or other interventions have you already tried? So then they can prescribe an action plan and then come back and review, is it working? So there's quite a system that they are implementing and creating at the same time under the assistance of our consultant. So, and not only that, it's not enough that they're just doing that to get the whole school going. Our schools are now, under the leadership of our principals, presenting what this whole process looks throughout faculty meeting and PD. So it's really about getting all in, and you'll hear me say that a couple of times, getting everyone all in on how we really affect our student support process in instruction, academics, and social-emotional well-being. So I'll move on from that. With instructional support, you have to have accommodations. And a student does not need to be on an IEP or a 504 or any kind of health plan to get accommodations. This is the typical world of teaching and learning. We accommodate students as needed. We're working with Alan Bloom, and he is renowned in the work of IEP eligibility in accommodating and CAPS, curriculum accommodation plans. We're working with Alan Bloom to help him, to help us review and revise our curriculum accommodation plan so that parents have, clear information about what accommodations can happen without an IEP or 504 document. These are good teaching practices and ways to and support students. Oops. Let me go back to my document. 1 second. I'm very sorry about that. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go on to Goal 3. And if you remember, Goal 3 was implementation of our vision of a learner. We prioritized 3 key attributes for all students: learning and growth, effective communicator, collaborative learner, and creative problem solver. First and foremost was sharing the vision of a learner with all staff, and I would say the whole district. We have a district implementation plan for our leaders, and basically it walks them through how they're going to implement at their schools month by month. And we're working with our consultant, Cale Burke, on filling each of those months in as we go. So we know that the only way to sustain a goal or project like this is first, obviously, train our teachers, but our leaders need to be able to carry that ball when we no longer have the consultant present. We, with our leadership team, rolled out where they saw, and it's called CUSR. Are they consistently seeing these standards? This is without the implementation. Are they consistently? Usually, sometimes, or really. So this was our benchmark of prior to implementation, and then they had to make some decisions with their team. Where do we want to start? So our teams of teachers then made those decisions. What do we want to focus on? So if I'm at the Ryan School and I'm on the science PLC, they're decided to focus on collaborative learner. They're beginning with CLS 3, so that's collaborative learner student, standard 3, and then collaborative learner task and collaborative learner educators. So it's what the students do, what the educators will do, and what the task or activities will do. So you can see that quite a bit of attention at the school level and focus areas for each PLC on that vision of a learner are playing themselves out now as this is being implemented. Same thing at the WIN. So these are a couple of examples. Like I said, I'd be here all day just talking about vision of a learner if I shared with you everything we've done. Again, KL will continue to provide professional development throughout the school year to keep building that capacity of our leadership team. There's a schedule linked of what we're going to do with him and our professional development. And then we conduct building learning walks. So we're not judging how well people are implementing the vision of a learner. We're looking at, are we seeing it? So we have principal school visits monthly, and we do learning walks when we're with the principals, so this shows you our monthly calendar of when we go to each of the schools. We generally spend 2 hours, myself and the assistant superintendent, and we look at data with them and talk about, what their challenges are at the school and what their celebrations are. But what we also do is use a school visit framework that DESE has provided us. We talk, before the visit, during the visit, after the visit, and then resources, and we look at specific focus areas. And one of those focus areas has been, okay, let's focus on our implementation of vision of a learner. The Doing did a wonderful walkthrough tool when we were at the Doing school, so we all stole it, and everyone's using it. So when we did our team, all of the administrators walking through the doing, each of the grade levels told us, when you come through our class, you're going to be looking for their target attribute was effective communication, which makes sense in preschool, and they told us what standards we would be looking for. Okay, so the students would be doing this, educators would be doing this, and these would be the tasks we would see. So we just dipstick, did we see this? And provided some feedback later to the principal. So we're not judging the teachers on how well they're doing it. We're trying to get some data to see where the frequency of implementation exists so we know how to support our teachers moving forward with this goal. What's really neat is we did put together a tracker because we need to be able to quickly look at that data and then discuss what next. And again, this doesn't judge how well I hope this shows. I can promise you it does. And you're just going to see the frequency of what we're seeing. More often we're seeing communication and, nope, it's not going to show us right now. Sorry about that. I can promise you they're nice bar graphs. And we are seeing a lot of effective communication. And it really does make sense, right, that we're seeing that, especially at the younger levels. And then let me see if this one will load too. It's an inventory. Yes, there we go. So now this is just showing us our observations, and we can break it down by school. I'm not going to do that here, but what we are seeing, what the highest frequency in those 20 observations was effective communication. So now we're just looking at the actual attribute, not the different standards within each attribute. This is good to show our teachers because they've made these decisions and maybe they want to try another attribute standard as they go. We want them to get good at this, not to feel that we're judging them. We do have a lot of work still to do in this in the spring. I'm going to move to goal 4, which is improve literacy for all. Our goal is to equip every student with strong reading, writing, and communication skills. And you can see really the interconnectivity of these goals, right? Communication, enabling them to comprehend and articulate complex concepts. So clearly we analyze the end of year district assessment data and then the beginning of district benchmark data. Again, we shared that DIBELS K through 8. I know you heard that earlier this year. Every student is being DIBELed, K through 8, which is really great data to have on our students' literacy, especially with that, gap in learning that we had. That data showed us, I'm going to share this with you a little bit. I think you may have seen this already once. Blue and green are where we want to be. We're showing grade level, core support is all that's needed. When students are in the yellow, they might need some strategic support, and students in the red will need more intensive support. And, clearly kindergarten, you expect this, right, about a half-half. Not all students come in reading at a strong level. But look at what we're seeing already in grades 1 and 2 and 3, some real benefit of the program improvements we've put into place already. But this report was really advantageous to us because what we were a little surprised to see was that 5th grade data. So we knew interventions in reading, needed to be implemented more at the 5th grade. And again, there was some learning loss there. These are students who, in 1st and 2nd grade in core reading development years, we're probably seeing that loss. So from that, we developed strategic literacy goals. Makes sense, right? We also looked at a crosswalk of where literacy goals would live in other content areas. So we looked at science, for example, what ELA standards would be embedded in those content areas. This literacy isn't just taught in ELA. So some decisions were being made around the data that we saw. And if I'm going too fast, stop me. If I'm putting you to sleep, I'm sorry. We certainly want to support the DLT in implementing strategic language objectives. This is not only important, obviously, for English language learners, but all learners. Academic language is so critical in every content area, and it really does help and support students in their learning. So there's a big focus, especially at our middle grades, on academic language. At the Ryan and the Wynn, they've provided PD to their faculty. What I think is important is not only are they providing feedback in PD, when their principals are observing their lessons, and these have been scrubbed, there's no identifiable information in here, they're providing some good feedback on how to advance that academic language goal. And good evidence for us to see as we support our administrators in this goal as well. So again, support the DLT in monitoring literacy progress. We had the beginning year benchmark back at the beginning of the year. I think it's January. Is that correct, Ms. McDermott? The end of January where we do our mid-year. Where we'll see hopefully the progress and success of all these efforts and the interventions, because that's what's key, is students that are being pulled in and taking for intervention needs. We should see some progress for them as well. And then finally, Goal 5, improve communications. This is an always, forever goal. Improve school district communications goal is to establish transparent, inclusive, and accessible communication system that fosters strong partnerships among students, parents, teachers, staff, and the community. We want to ensure that clear lines of communication exist between teachers, our schools, and district leadership. You've seen many of these, the district newsletter, the district staff-only newsletter, and I want to just, we added this year, and we've asked all of our departments to contribute regularly. So when's the payroll week? What about benefits, HR, maybe, IT news? So this is for staff only, which is why it's not a live link, and, whether there's DIBELS progress monitoring. So what we do is we include the parent newsletter in one of the links, and then everything that's just for staff in their own separate newsletter. And the staff have really liked this because it's, they get right to the specifics. The tech coaches are also providing a district newsletter for staff so that our staff can be supported regularly in ongoing IT needs. And then, the budget development process with our schools and our central office administration. You're going to hear more from Dave with our improved quarterly budget review communication, not only with you, but within our schools. The DLT, we have consistent expectations for them, so our directors, to share information about student performance with parents and families. We heard that in our comprehensive district review, if you remember, and in our that need for more transparent data to parents and information to parents about screeners and data collection and student progress at school. So you'll see here's a Heathbrook newsletter where Principal Garish talked about what the beginning year benchmarks looked like, what they were screening for. So trying to be more transparent. Parents have heard about DIBELS, but what does that mean? We shared with our parents the Mass General Hospital Literacy Student Letter. Remember, they came in and did some assessments of our students to see if we had needs in the area of dyslexia. There's a Counselor's Corner newsletter that provide parents with, for example, here at Center School, what second step lessons they're working on. So now parents know that these are the social emotional goals we have for each grade level, and then they can certainly support them at home. Let's see, example of a DIBELS parent report. So if a parent did receive notice that their child fell in that intervention area, parents were first shown how to read the report and then notified of their student getting intervention. There's more here. I'm not going to go through all of it. We're collaborating with our Joint Labor Management, TTA leadership team to communicate and elicit feedback, because it's really about two-way communication on the PD needs and experiences with other relevant topics. I linked a sample agenda for you. At the beginning of the year, transportation was a hot topic in the copy center, so that I think spanned a couple of our meetings. The assistant superintendent continues to meet with the TTA professional development advisory group. It's a small group of teacher leaders, if you will, asking for some feedback on how we plan PD. One thing I didn't put on here, and I did meet with some of the other union leads and ask them, we need some mid-year and end-of-year JLM kind of time with them, because every department's very important, and we want to make sure we're getting their two-way feedback as well. We've had, wonderful response to the Tewksbury Public School Facebook post, where we at least get out more social media presence on all the things happening in our schools. We ask our leadership team to provide us with stuff every week, and they have been. And really, when you think about it, we're asking a lot of them. We've asked them all. Think about it. We have social media. We have all these s'mores. We have all these information. And we've now asked them, don't forget about your website. Get in there and update it, because there's only so much room on the plate, and we've started to notice maybe they look a little stale. So that's something that they'll continue to do through the end of the school year. I talked about that district staff letter again. We're still working out dates to come and talk with the students about homework and student experience. Our principals are doing that work behind the scenes as well. Much of that discussion is continued here at the high school. So I know I've shared a lot, and I told you these are just samples of evidence in each of these goals. I just want to end with saying I really hope you're as proud of our team of teachers and administrators as I am. I know this mid-year review is in part a review of my progress in leadership, but this progress is really representative of our collective hard work, not my work alone, for sure. The successes we're having towards our goals is that all-in vision that you're seeing from our full team. We all believe in these goals, and we're working very hard for you, for me, for our entire Tewksbury School community of students, and I certainly welcome any questions you may have, or an opportunity to meet with you separately at the office if you have more questions about any of the evidence I shared with you.
Thank you so much. Feel free to join us back over here if you'd like.
I'll come back over there. Let me just, okay. All right.
Yep, you could.
I really didn't think I was going to get through that without my eyes slamming shut, so I feel very good
Set
right
up for
now.
the room, too. Mr. Russo, did you want to start?
Yeah, sure. That was enlightening. That's a lot. No, it is a lot, and I can certainly appreciate, having like you said, the CEO of the school district. There's hundreds of employees. There's thousands of customers, if you will, students, of course, and their families. So I can appreciate all the undertaking that goes into that to make it what you shared. I guess maybe just as sort of stepping back from the whole thing, obviously there's some things that I know that are sort of on the docket for the winter, the springtime, between now and the end of the school year. If you look at the things that you have accomplished, and what would you, I guess, say would be currently the biggest gap, maybe, in terms of the goals, if there was one thing that you could sort of maybe speak to?
Well, I think a key thing to remember is these aren't one-year goals.
Yep.
They shouldn't be, and we want to sustain them, right? We want the practice to sustain. I think it's, we have a good foundation in that observable impact model with our vision of a learner, which would be one piece, or data-driven decision-making, is to continue to grow on the skills that our administrators and our faculty and staff already have. Because, again, we don't want these goals to just go out there, yep, did that as a compliance check, but really building strong practice around decision-making and teacher leadership in that decision-making so that we can better serve our students. I would say an area of probably a lot of work being done, but continued focus is in an instructional support area. Because it's when we can really have our PLCs do that observable impact process, then they can see when supporting the student is paying off and when it isn't. So, as I said earlier, these are so interconnected. It's hard to pull out one over another.
Yep.
As I stood there and talked, standards-based report cards, the Ryan's already saying, well, what about us? They're elementary grade level too. How do we, so it's sort of building off of each of them. We don't see the work is done. I don't know if it was a concrete answer you're looking for, other than how we continue to expand on it, not just say we did it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, and I also appreciate the fact that you have to stand up there and talk about how good you're doing and that self-assessment, that self-reflection. So appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yeah, so I've already set up some time with you to talk a couple specific questions, but in general, and I don't even know if you can answer, but because I see that we're making progress towards our pre-pandemic scores, but has there been any studies on how long we think that's going to take for us to get back?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing, again, the timing of bringing in a new ELA curriculum was very important. It was put on hold because of the pandemic, but we're already seeing results of that. I'll back up. When we came back from the pandemic, we had the acceleration roadmap. I'm not sure if you heard anything about that, but they told us to look at a 3 to 5 year at least plan.
Okay.
So that's why we're comparing pre-pandemic data to now. Now, I'm not sure we're going to see things ever the exact same as they were pre-pandemic, because we learned a lot through that have-to process about differentiation and more student voice and choice. So I don't know that we'll see the same results academically or socially, but maybe different results. But they did tell us really plan a 3 to 5 year approach. I do see some of those gaps, though, already, especially in the area of literacy, improving. So, I think the work that we started early on and then continue now is going to pay off for a long time through all the grade levels.
Okay, thank you. And I really appreciate all the work that you put into that for us, because it makes it a lot easier for us with all the links and evidence that you put in there. And I like to see that the doing created that framework and that rubric, and then it was adopted across everything. And I think that's huge that you have that cross-functional collaboration to take the best of what each school's doing.
I just got the chills when you said that, because I really wish the committee could see more often and again, I'm going to use the air quotes, that all-in approach. Our team is truly amazing. I mean, this is huge commitment and dedication and a focus all together that I don't think we've ever seen to this level in our administrative team in Tewksbury. They don't balk at the work, they enjoy the work. They support each other, and I know you could add more to it, I won't go on, but I think that's the sense of pride that I just can't express,
Yeah.
is how in it they are to make these goals a success for our students. And not because they have to. Remember, they all agreed that these are the most important goals. They have buy-in as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Mrs. Biantori-Smith?
Yeah, I thank you for all of the work that you've put into that. You can feel your passion when you're standing up there and talking about it, and how much you care about the whole rather than just, a little bit here and there. I appreciate the collaboration with the different levels of staff to families, with the vision of a learner, and how it kind of brings everybody together with one message across the whole district. Ms. Anderson kind of took that right from my brain, where I was going to say all of that, but it's just a great message to show the buy-in, the leaning into that message across the district. I really don't have anything else, any questions right now. I think it's an incredible amount of work that you put in to give us and to give the district and the families a better understanding of what you're doing and what the district is doing to improve the student learning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Again, I have the same thing to say, which is you're always so thorough with giving examples, and I appreciate it because I think as a non-educator, seeing the data, seeing what you're reflecting on, what are the things that you're looking at, and it's not just anecdotally, this is getting better, or things are going in the right direction. So it helps us process some of that stuff too, and I appreciate that a lot. I really was excited to read some of the stuff about the student success team.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm super excited to see kind of where that goes and how you're using that and utilizing it in the district for students that are struggling and kind of falling, through the cracks a little sometimes.
And key to know what their strengths are. That's really key when we sit down and discuss what students' needs are. Well, what are they good at? And again, the consultant that we're working with is really helping our team not only develop all these processes and applications, but really now, how do we improve our practice when we're sitting at the table? So we're not just talking about it.
Yeah.
Do something, try it. Yeah, it's amazing work.
Yeah, so I do appreciate it. I think if I had one thing that I would love to see, and maybe you have this kind of in the works and it's happening and I just am not aware of it, is just more how are you maybe supporting or working together collaboratively to support some of the students that are the highest achievers. I think, we talk about post-COVID and, trying to pick up our gaps, but for those students who just really are way above the bell curve, what is the district doing kind of in that way and maybe in that same team approach?
Right.
So that's just one thing that I would love to see
Thank you.
in the upcoming years. And that's really it. I thank you for all your hard work. I thank you for showing up every day.
She have a choice?
And really for just being so collaborative with the team. I think the times when we've had the opportunity to be present amongst the DLT team or some of the administrators, you can feel just how I do think that people feel valued. And I hope that there is some trickle-down effect on that too, to where if it's happening at this, at your administrative level, that I hope those things are happening in the building too. So
Yeah.
it seems like it is, but I think that's coming from leadership, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my comments. Hopefully this style of mid-year review works for everybody. And, hopefully Nick has an opportunity to check in with you too.
Okay.
He always has some good insight. And if he's watching from home,
Good examples of their taxpayers being put to good use. I hope they sense that too.
okay. All right, so if we're done there, I think we can move on to our January 2nd, a professional development update.
Yes. So first, I'm going to pass around a token poker chip. We're not going to play poker, but it will tie in a little bit to the PD update. So on January 2nd, we had our full day professional development day. It went extremely well overall. I'll share all the highlights, and then I'll tell you some of the areas I think for improvement. It was another differentiated day. We're still trying really hard to meet the variety of needs across the district. Working with the TTA PD committee has been really helpful because they're able to provide some real honest feedback from the different schools. We've got representatives from all the schools, so that's been great. So in designing this day, what we had in mind was really something that to focus on strengthening instructional supports, as the superintendent mentioned, but also meeting the diverse needs of the staff and giving them the time to, I want to say ease back in, but in coming back, feeling like they had some time to really process the keynote speaker and do some of the things that might be meaningful for them as they welcome students back. And so the feedback we got was they were super appreciative of that approach. I'll go into it a little bit more. But we did have some trainings that were already scheduled. So we had the Frog Street training come in. We, for our new pre-K curriculum, we had the some training in the morning for the IL platform in the EL education. They go hand in hand in the new ELA program. So those things were already scheduled. I'm super proud of those things because there's a lot of districts who struggle to have ongoing PD when you're implementing a new curriculum. And our teams really let us know that while they were super excited about the curriculum that we were implementing, that they knew that the PD support was going to be really important. So I'm thrilled that we were able to support the teachers in that area. Didn't exactly turn out the way I might have hoped, but I'll fill you in. So anyway, we also had new IEP training for special education staff, which I'm really pleased that we're getting. I feel like I'm sort of ahead of that because that is coming out next year. We want to make sure that that's not brand new when the year starts, and we'll have a little more of that coming toward the end of the year. So you can see we had quite a few different sessions. You can see on the PD chart that you have. Our 5 through 12 staff, non-ELA teachers in grades 5 and 6, and some of our elementary teachers were able to begin the day with a keynote speaker. His name is Jean Paul Gonzalez. He came to us from New Jersey, and he talked about this all-in approach. He has had the privilege to speak to some sports teams, specifically the Giants, and in some of his work with that team, they went on to really start start, move from a struggling season to actually winning and eventually beating our Patriots. So that was unfortunate. But he talked a lot about being all in professionally and personally. He talked about the importance of connection with students. We really highlighted how the simplest of connections can foster real relationship building for students and really make them want to come to school and succeed in your class. That really resonated with a lot of our teachers. He talked a lot about the importance of a work-life rhythm rather than a balance. That was another big takeaway for our staff. Explained how during the times that we may be giving a little more to work, it doesn't mean that we necessarily owe time to our family or our personal life, or vice versa, but more that we need to find a healthy rhythm. This really resonated certainly with me because I feel like, in my own personal life with my husband and family, we're pretty good at knowing sometimes somebody else has to pick up the slack for this time, and, I've got to give a little more to work at this time. And it's not that feeling that sometimes we can feel as professionals in terms of our personal life, that because we're putting so much time into our professional life right now, that we've got to balance that out in our personal life. It doesn't really kind of work that way. So that was a neat take on that. The feedback was so overwhelmingly positive that I just want to take a minute to share some. I just pulled out just a few of some of the quotes from the staff. I got to reflect on my own personal why and how I can better myself for the benefit of my students. The importance of being all in or fully present and committed, especially in terms of teaching and being a leader role model for students. Relationships matter. When students feel cared for and respected, they will reciprocate that and be more willing to listen and learn. We model that for them by the way we treat each other and how we show up for them every day. The message of all in shows we are in this together and we need to be all in for our students. All in isn't just a personal mantra for one person to follow. It describes how the most successful teams of people find this success by sharing, striving, and supporting each other for a common goal. Rhythm is necessary for longevity in this career. Relationships were, are, and will always be of highest importance in education. Little things like, hey, nice game yesterday, how was your weekend, etc., mean a lot. Lastly, I love the use of the word rhythm. Finding a work-life balance can be a huge challenge for many educators, but thinking of this balance in terms of a rhythm helps that challenge to feel a little more attainable. I loved the symbolism of the poker chip, which you have, and will be keeping that on my desk to remind me to work on achieving this rhythm and to remind me that Tewksbury is a team of people who are all in. So that token was a neat takeaway. Staff was encouraged to put their initials on the back. They could put something their name on the back, something that they took away from the PD. It really turned out to be the perfect way to start the year. My only regret is that everybody wasn't there. And so these are the times where it feels like, it would have been great. It was not recorded, and even if it was, it wouldn't have been the same, being in the room all together and feeling that passion and the vibe was just super positive. The rest of the day was dedicated to strengthening instructional support. So what we did this time, myself, the curriculum directors, and some of our teachers, we offered a choice board of professional development that encompassed about a dozen different options for teachers to choose from, included mini sessions and office hours with our tech coaches, our math coaches, some social emotional learning support, MTSS Tier 1 supports, strategies to support our multilingual learners. Our ELL team put some work into this board as well. The feedback on this setup was also really positive. We also offered a teacher choice section where we weren't going to dictate what you do during that time, but you would do something that felt meaningful for your own professional development, and we asked teachers to fill out an exit ticket and tell us what they did, and they did that. The feedback from the entire day was really positive, less so for the EL implementation team. Partly it was pretty split, half and half. Half of the people wrote in that it felt redundant It felt like it was the third time they had had this PD, especially for those teachers who piloted. So, upon reflection, could we have opened up the choice board and pulled them out of that PD? I don't really know. We had already funded this, we had already staffed it. Unfortunately, you're sort of at the mercy of the company when they come, how good they are, how dynamic they are, and how much it meets your needs, even though we're meeting with them all the time and giving them feedback and planning the sessions together with them, the literacy director, literacy coach, and myself. So half of the people didn't love that, and I think the other thing they said was it would have been nice to be at the keynote and taking advantage of the choice board as well. So I will continue to reflect on that and try to ensure that it all rolls out, a little more positively. That is the last EL implementation session that we have. Before the PD, we did look into seeing if we could move it to next year, but we weren't able to do that. So in the end, I'm happy that we were able to offer them that PD because it is really important, but I think if they were comparing where they might have wanted to be, it might have been in the instructional supports. But overall, it was fantastic. Our next PD opportunity is on March 13th, during which time we will have another tiny little bit of differentiation. It's mostly going to be focused on the new IEP, it'll be building-based, sort of a train-the-trainer model with the case managers. But our K-2 teachers will have GEODS training, which is the small group decodable text that supports foundations. So again, really important. They need it, they've asked for it, they want it, but we will have to work. We're already designing a plan to make sure that they get the IEP training. So just making that puzzle work. So keep your poker chip handy.
Thank you. Any comments, Mr. Russo?
No, I think this is wonderful. I like the concept of keynote speakers. I'm not sure if that is something that could be potentially on the docket, down the road, and certainly probably makes more sense in a full-day PD versus a half-day PD. So I always just think it builds camaraderie.
Yeah.
And
It did, for sure.
Yeah, it's important.
On the topic you've brought up many times, this has been the benefit of those ESSER funds.
Yeah.
And, we're sad to see them go because we've been able to bring in amazing
Yeah.
consultants. And, we'll be scrimping our pennies
Figuring
together
a way,
again pretty soon, but
Yeah.
it really has benefited our whole staff.
Yeah.
A few years now.
Mrs. Anderson?
I just want to say thank you for all your work. I think you really take on making sure that these PD times are valuable for our staff, so I really appreciate all the hard work that you put into it.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones-Smith?
I was going to say, again, the same thing, that the fact that you put all the effort into the feedback from staff and looking at what worked, what didn't work, I think that means a lot. I think going back and saying, we heard you.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing. I think that goes a long way, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate that you're looking for a way to bring in the new IEP for the K-2 staff, because I think that that's going to be pretty important, and I've heard the rumblings of people wanting to get ahead of it, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my only comment, I think just I ran into a couple of people who gave me great feedback about the afternoon choice board, and then also just really enjoying the keynote speaker. So I like the fact that you were able to kind of come back from a holiday break on such like a kind of big, fresh, nice note. The foundations, just a quick question. Do you find that you're utilizing it in a similar way to how it was used prior to bringing in EL, or are you
Oh, yeah,
finding that
completely.
it's being
The
used
same.
more? Okay,
Nope, exactly the same.
okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
What's nice about the GEODS is those are decodable texts so foundations is kind of isolated skills in sounding out words. In the GEODS, you're actually putting that into connected text and applying those skills.
Okay. And then they work kind of in tandem with each other?
They do,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for your hard work, and
Thank you.
yeah, good luck moving forward. All right, and next, Mr. Libby. I think this would be you on year-to-date spending.
Sure. So in your packets, provided just quarterly, we've decided to try to keep you updated quarterly on our expenditure progress throughout the year. Sort of presented similar to the way we present our budget, just as what we've expended so far, what we've committed or encumbered in either salaries or purchase orders, and then what we have available left to spend. The summary sheet at the beginning sort of breaks down everything by cost center. I worked on a different variation of this that I'll put in the packet next time. I sent to you folks via email that sort of puts, categorizes the expenses by the type of expense it is, according to the Department of Ed function codes that we use when we do our end-of-year report. So it's just sort of another way to group expenses together. Sometimes it's a nice way to look at things. So generally, this is about where we would expect to be, 94% committed and expended at this point in the year. The only surprise, not surprise expenses, but the things that aren't accounted for here are, things like overtime, class coverage, substitutes, things we don't know about as far as salary goes, and, new purchases as supplies, consumables, things like that. We've got purchase orders in place for all the major expenses that we anticipate, and we've been checking those run rates to see how they look at this point in the year, and we seem to be in pretty good shape as far as utilities go, transportation, tuition, and most of our contracted services, we have contracts, purchase orders in place, and we periodically check in with our department heads on those run rates as well to see how we're doing against those, and if we need more, if we have less, and adjust accordingly. But yeah, generally, we're in pretty good shape right now.
Okay. Mr. Russo?
No, I looked it over. I feel comfortable. I went back to and compared it to what you said, what you gave us last year at this time, and there didn't seem to be any outliers from my perspective. I appreciate the updated format that you sent out, so thank you for doing that. And yeah, nothing really specific, to hone in on here from my perspective.
Okay. Mrs. Anderson?
I had already sent Mr. Libby some questions, so I'm good too. Thank you.
Right, and Mrs. B. Johnny Smith?
No questions. Thank you.
And I don't either. I think this is very thorough. I appreciate it, especially as we're looking to go in a couple weeks, talk with you about next year's planning.
Yep.
So I think this was great timing. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Moving on to our TMHS class counts.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. First of all, let me apologize. The agenda says TMHS class counts. It really should say the TPS district current class counts and enrollment and the NESDEC enrollment projections. So I'm going to just walk you through. You've had this data in front of you. I'm not going to dissect all of it except for just share with you some of the key points that we're noticing in our enrollment trends. So as I said, we look at our actuals mid-year, and we look at that NESDEC report that we generally receive at the end of the calendar year in December. And NESDEC's amazing. Their predictions, their data that they share with us is always very accurate. But let's just look first of all at our district overall enrollment. If you back out the PK, you're going to see NESDEC had us originally at 3,059 students. When you back out the PK, K through 12, we were at 3,074 right now. So the number's pretty spot on. You can see that declining number all the way through. The bubble that we see which is approximately 50 more students than we're historically seeing is in grade 1. That was a kindergarten bubble last year, and now it's grade 1 bubble. And there is always a variable that happens from kindergarten to 1 anyways, because not all students come to kindergarten. They may go to private. It's not required that they come to kindergarten. So we may see a little bit of a shift from K to 1 going into next year, but, you know, you can see we're staying around that 240 to 60 range in the grade levels for many years, at least based on our actuals right now. If you look at the next page, which we've shared with you a couple times now, these are our class sizes in kindergarten through grade 8, actually preschool as well. You can see that our class sizes in grades K through 8 remain very low. And again, that first grade bubble that we see this year will be moving to grade 2 next year, so we'll adjust appropriately. Let me talk a little bit about how to read the Tewksbury Memorial High School. Now, obviously, there are a lot of classes and a lot more teachers than a simple grid. The way you read this document, I know there's a lot of classes in here, is I'll just go through the course codes are going to share with you the levels. So you can see like courses, the English 9s, for example, the CP levels. So that's the grade level standards-based course. And then you'll see the H, which stands for honors. So it's still a grade 9 course, but it's an honors course. And then you may see AP, which is advanced placement throughout the document. And then you may see EC, which are our early college opportunities or dual enrollment credit. If you look at the term, you're going to either see FY for full year, S1 for semester 1, or S2 for semester 2. And then assigned. So the total is the actual enrollment in each of the classes. The maximum, we generally set maximums at either 25 or 29, and sometimes 30. And that happens for our core content, where every student in that grade level has to go. And then how many open seats there are. So what we do, we run this report a number of times, obviously at the end of the year when students pick classes, students redo their schedules, and then again at the beginning of the year. And now mid-year is the time that our principal and our assistant principals, together with the administrative team at the central office, have to really look at how we can look at staffing going into the next school year based on all the current enrollment numbers and all the grade levels, and then the high school as well. So as we look at semester 1 and semester 2, we can see that many of our high school classes are under-enrolled. Typically, as I told you, we maximize at even up to 29 and 30, and even at 25 maximums, we have many under-enrolled classes. We'll look at like sections and see where we may be able to consolidate, and we can make some recommendations, or they can make recommendations for staffing for next year. I want to share with you the NESDEC report. I'm going to first start with historical enrollment. It's not a surprise. NESDEC has been predicting this enrollment decrease for several years. We have seen a steady decline in enrollment for about over 14 years, really. You can see that in the 10-year historical grid there. When we look at just high school alone in the historical enrollment, we've lost over 300 plus students, but even in the last 10 years, about 250 students. And we're seeing that very small increase, actually, and that was really based on that first grade bubble and what some of those projections were. The next is just a bar chart here that shows you our loss of students over 10 years, which is showing about 600 students in the past 10 years. So if we look at the projections moving forward onto the third page of this report, you can see there's a good 6 to 7 years before we really start to see that increase. And especially if you think of that first grade bubble and then moving up the grade levels, it's going to take them, 7, 8 years before they actually come to the high school. So it stays fairly low, and unless something very unforeseen, or some variable that we're not taking into account takes place, then, we see this enrollment staying fairly low for quite some time, and we will make those necessary decisions on where we are in staffing. Now, with that said, We saw last year some reorganization of staff, where we had low enrollment at the high school. We needed to reorg that staff into counseling and other positions that were much needed in the district, including those early childhood areas of need. We'll be looking at that again. We've fortunately are looking to roll all of those counseling positions that were in ESSER into the regular budget, because those are necessary positions we need in the district. So at this point, really, this is informational only. No vote is needed. We just wanted you to see a full picture of our current enrollment versus our projected enrollment, and there's a pretty consistent, total for a number of years, which helps us with our budget and staffing decision-making.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. We certainly welcome, any feedback or from our administrators as they look at this, and we'll be working with them with this data. They've seen it once through the DLT. They'll be looking at this again next week with us.
Questions?
Yeah, I would say the one spot that I look ahead at is the, I guess, the bubble that you would see in 26, 27, when you hit the 2 to 4, grades 2 to 4.
Yeah.
And, jumping up, currently being at like the 767 and jumping up to 841 when we hit the center school. I think there's something to keep an eye on or start planning for.
Yeah, and this is what happens, though. It's a water line, right? Well, second grade will go up because first grade's big, but third grade goes down when you look at those numbers, as fourth stays pretty steady. So we know we're going to see, that shift, and that happens every year when you have that one grade that bubble, walks through. But we know that, and, the center school is a big school, but we have room to grow as well. So, we have an ongoing, have we hit the 800 mark yet for next year? So we're watching it closely for every class.
Yeah, it's interesting, because even when you think about, maybe this sounds a little silly, but even the dynamic of the school with the whole color-coded and grade level, and if now you're starting to, see where you need to start to split, does the dynamic of the school change a little bit when you start to?
We'll be very intentional. You hate to have a core class on another floor. It's those other classes that we had extra classrooms and people have occupied them, but there may be movement of classes as a result. If second grade needs, 13, 14 classes and you had 12 gen ed, somebody's, going to have to have a classroom in one of those spaces.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just a couple questions. So, when you look at the data, specifically over the last 10 years, especially at the different schools, so we've seen our enrollment drop roughly 600 students or so. And if I'm looking at this right, so about half of that is from the high school level. Is that fair to say or reasonable to say?
I think it's at every grade level, but what happens is, even though those grade levels are smaller, the same amount of students. So let's say we have 300 students at eighth graders.
Yeah.
We see almost the exact same frequency of how many students are being accepted into the tech, regardless of what our total enrollment is in eighth grade.
Right.
And so while our eighth grade classes are decreasing, the same amount of students are being accepted into.
But overall, though, we were
vocational schools.
roughly 1,000 kids 10 years ago at the high school level, and now we're 700.
I would say even before that, when we opened the school, we were in the 1,000, closer to 1,100, and we were worried we would be overcrowded. So we've seen quite a drop in, when the population drops in the whole town, it just follows us until, we're glad to see more babies. But it's not gonna hit our high school for quite some time.
And I can imagine that when students pick their courses at the high school, 8th grade through 11th grade, students pick their courses, I would imagine putting that schedule together is pretty much like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. But when you look at some of the enrollments at some of these classes at the high school level, where you see, and I'm not to pick on any, but I look at, say, biology, for example, where you have sort of, 3 college placement courses, let's say, and 7 students are in one, 9 are in another, and then 7 are in another. how do you bring that together to make a class of 22, 24 student, whatever it is, and then also accommodate the other scheduled courses that students are looking to take and
Yeah,
whatnot too,
it
right?
it is a puzzle, and it is a lot of work, but when we leave in the spring,
Yeah.
that is when, some of that really heavy lifting happens too. And you're right, if they're like courses, and we can combine those two classes, that opens a section for either something else or whatever. But this data is very important, and we're seeing, because we have the pattern and we have the trend, the decisions aren't just made in the hopes that something, will change. This pattern that we're seeing in the freshman class needs, that's going to be, first of all, our lower enrolled, under-enrolled freshman classes are sophomores next year.
Right.
So we have the trend to look at and really decide. Now, the hard decision is when you have a 1Z class,
Right.
and I'll say like a robotics class, and that's a very relevant, important class, and you may only have 9 students. Does it run or doesn't it run? And the principal and the assistant principals will have to make those decisions when classes are significantly under-enrolled. And while some may stay on the books, some may not. And you don't want to take an opportunity away
Sure.
from a student. But we also have Edgenuity, where some of those onesie or smaller, groupings can be done with online learning, but a robotics lab can't. So those are where they'll make the decisions based on the type of class it is.
So, okay, that's helpful. And then I guess just my last question, because I know you kind of focused a little bit on that first grade bubble. So when I look at, the Heathbrook and Dewing, there's roughly 15 first grade classes today. There's 12 second grade classes today as well. Obviously, there may be some shifting there, because I would imagine that, which is great to see all these class sizes, 19, 20, 21. I would imagine if you're taking 15 classes of 20 students and putting them into 12 second grade classes next year, I mean, I don't think it's monumental going from 19 to 22, but it might be going from 20 to 25,
Right.
26,
And
right?
that's where reorg happens. If you don't need a position in one grade level, but you need it in another, you're not losing a position, you're
Yeah.
just needing it in a different grade level.
Right.
And that's tough. And we also, as I said to Ms. Bijoni-Smith, we're looking at second, third, and fourth there's potential reorg right in that one building.
Okay,
So that's important to look at, too.
okay, excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't really have many comments. I have a couple of questions. For people who maybe have thoughts that the addition of condominium, like living in town, has an impact on the schools, I'm just curious, does NESDEC do any sort of data around that?
They do a deep dive on birth rates, on real estate, on the condo, and honestly, it's been a surprise to me, every year I hear it, that there's just not a lot of. You would think if it's a 3-bedroom condo, you're probably looking at a couple of kiddos, but I forget what the average is, like 1 point something, and, it's not as high as you would think with all the new growth in property. It's just not. So, we wish it was. We do. And we're happy to see the growth that we're seeing in the early childhood level, and hopefully it continues. But, Tewksbury is an expensive place to live as well. We see some families doubling up, meaning living with the grandparents, which is good, doubling up in the sense of, staying in the family home. We like that because then their kiddos are coming to our schools. So, but this is also part of the budget process. We didn't talk a lot about that, but this is, when we look at data with the budgets, with the principals, this is a driving force. They know what their needs are based on their student population, and these are the conversations we're having. We have 2-hour sessions with every principal next week to, as I said, go really deeper into this.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, no, I appreciate this, and I think it gives us a much better picture, to see that additional 9 through 12 data.
Thank you.
It's a bummer, but it's, I appreciate seeing it.
Yeah.
So, thank you for your work on that. And I guess we're looking at the 24-25 school calendar draft.
Yes, okay, finally, right? This is, no vote is needed here, this is our first draft. There are a couple areas I want to point out. We've looked at it a couple of times against every religious holiday that, Ms. Johnson prints out all of those calendars for the year, and then what the rules are around those holidays. We don't think we're intruding on anybody's religious holiday, but we certainly welcome feedback from the community. What we have left to decide, first of all, I should tell you, we have this topic on JLM tomorrow with our TTA, because it's always good to bounce this off and get different perspectives. So we have one final decision to make as well that we haven't put on the calendar, and that is when graduation day is. So let me just give you a quick reminder on that. I think I talk about it every year. By law, graduation can't happen more than 12 days before the last scheduled day of school, including the snow days. So if we go backwards, the 6th is the 12th day. So we're within our rights to have it on the 6th, but because of contractual obligations with our teachers, if Good Friday falls on the Friday before April vacation, contractually, our staff have lost the early release day. So the contract says we will put that early release day on the last official Friday without snow days of the school year. So right now, we have that half day that we would have had the Friday before April vacation on the 13th. We're going to work with the JLM tomorrow and see, because what we've received feedback from our parents, especially parents of seniors, parents that run the all-night-long graduation, they really love a half day on graduation day. It makes life easier for home and for the PAC to, renovate the whole Wynn School and get it all ready for all night long. Because those parents, and as you've heard, there are not as many of those parents available to do that work. So we're gonna figure out that graduation piece, and if we can move that half day, then I think it will serve everybody's needs. But there are, sometimes multiple iterations. It says draft. We'll bring it back to you in February, and hopefully we'll have tweaked those details, and you can vote on the calendar then.
Any questions on the calendar?
Just find it fascinating that the last day of school without snow days would be a Monday.
Right.
But it is the way the calendar works, so.
It really is, and time on learning and our obligation under 180 school days, there's so much that goes into this. The woman that really does a lot of this work, and counts every day, this is a, when I talk about a puzzle to put together, this is a big one, so we thank Ms. Johnson for her work here.
Just a quick question. We have been having a PD day the day after New Year's Day.
We talked about it.
Yeah, but is it because that's a Thursday and then
Yeah,
Friday?
and that would be, then students would come back just
Yeah,
for
for
one
one
day
day.
on Friday.
Yeah,
So that would
okay.
be inconvenient, I think.
And we'd also be putting 2 more days later. Like if we use the PD days there, school days are occurring later. So we did have this discussion with the JLM, because, look, we've been able to offer that January PD. It is a good opportunity for staff to
Reset.
work on getting
It's great.
back to that second half of the new school year again, right?
Yeah.
But there's also, is the juice worth the squeeze sometimes, too, we have to look at. And,
Yep.
2 weeks for families is a lot, too.
Yeah.
There does hit that sweet spot where families are ready to get their kiddos back to school because they have to get back to work.
Some
too.
districts are doing that. I personally like the idea of having the kids ease back in with those 2 days.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice way to get back rather than coming back to that full, long week, and we get the days under our belt. And I know on the JLN agenda, they may have some ideas, too, of how to rework it. That's why we've kind of put it in as a draft, and we'll see.
Yep.
Perhaps they'll have some thoughts, too, on that last day being a Monday.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
well, if we have a snow day,
Yeah.
right? Because right now it's Tuesday. But I would say, I'm sorry, you're thinking the 16th. We welcome feedback from our community, too. So parents, be sure either talk to your principal or talk to us, because we revisit this at DLT as well, our district leadership team meetings.
Thank you for all the hard work on it. And school committee matters of interest. Anything for you, Mrs. Bjorny Smith? No. Mr. Russo?
No, I'll just maybe add, just say, so I got to take part in the DECA experience, UMass Lowell, the last couple days. It's always a great opportunity to interact with students from not just in Tewksbury, but really all across really the Merrimack Valley and District 5. So thank you to Mr. Jimmy Sullivan for organizing that and being a leader to those students and for offering it to volunteers and whatnot like myself. So it was a good opportunity. So appreciate that.
Great. Ms. Anderson?
I'm good, thank you.
I just want to acknowledge, I attended the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Board of Directors meeting and President's Retreat Friday and Saturday of last week. It was a great opportunity for me to just learn more about kind of a lot more actually about how the organization supports school committees and how they're available to us. I know we've certainly utilized their services quite a bit over the last few years, and I hope that we can continue to do that. So if any committee members have thoughts for learning lunches or just things that we would all like more information on, I think if we're thinking this, then other committees have got to be thinking the same thing. So I welcome any feedback on that. I'll be attending a training for division leaders on February 10th. So this is all funded by MASC, so it's not any cost to us or our committee. But I just wanted to share that. And then also, I just learned that Dorothy Presser, our field director, has retired. So, I think we missed the opportunity to send her a message, but, perhaps I can try to get an address and send her something. So we should be hearing more about a new division leader pretty soon. So, and then moving on to future school committee dates, we have January 31st, which is a special school committee meeting for our budget working group. We have February 14th, March 13th, which is also both inclusive of public hearings on the budget as well as being regular meetings. And then April 10th, we also have a regular meeting. On the 23rd, we have future subcommittee and advisory committee dates. We have the CPAC business meeting is January 18th. Wellness Advisory Committee, February 7th, and Policy Subcommittee is to be determined. Any future agenda items that anybody would like to?
Just, can we just go back to the January 31st? Can we just confirm, is that a 4 o'clock meeting for the budget workshop? Did we say?
Did we have a time for that?
I think we did.
We have a
4:30?
time.
Okay, 4:30, okay, I just wanted,
Does
yeah.
that still work for everybody?
Yeah. No, that's
4:30
fine.
is what I have.
Okay, great.
30.
Okay.
Anything else for future agenda items?
No.
No. I know next month, the February meeting, we also will share our school committee, just kind of a check-in, see where we're at with some of the goals that we set back in September. So people could be thinking about that. And again, that'll be just very informal, kind of what we proposed and where we think we're at. And then February, we talked about revisiting the conversation with the North Street School and how we wanted to move forward with that. So we could all be thinking about that as well. Any questions in the meantime? Maybe we could bring that to administration, Mr. Libby, before February. And that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And meeting adjourned at 8:12 PM.